we got the right box with the right game this time. This time we're going to play, there was no box for Montebello, it's print and play. This time we're going to look at Marengo, which happens a few days after Montebello. And since I just played Montebello, I'm going to continue on using the version 3.0 rules that come from Talavera. Okay, what's my story on this? So, I honestly am not sure how I got these. I think I bought them direct from, well, I think I bought Marengo direct from the gamers, because it was very hard to find their stuff. Like, I got lucky with Thunder at the Crossroads, picked that up and played that and wanted all their things, but I was not wealthy at the time and didn't order much, if any. I ordered a couple of the American Civil War ones over time. But I think I got Marengo and Austerlitz at the same time. And then picked up Aspirin Essling later. It's over there, hiding down there. There weren't a lot of games in the NBS series that were produced. But anyway, what was kind of weird was, you know, I was getting the old version of Austerlitz, I think, at the same time that I got the newer Marengo. And Austerlitz came in a Ziploc. I don't have a box for it, which worries me as to where, I think, I don't know. Damn, maybe I'm wrong. I thought it came in a Ziploc, which would mean it, God knows where it is. Yeah, I don't see it over there. Might be hiding in the Aspirin Essling box, in which case maybe I got Aspirin Essling and Austerlitz at the same time and then got Marengo later. And Aspirin, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it, actually, because, or maybe I got all three at once. I don't know. Anyway, I was such a fan of the CWB series that I was willing to lay down enough money for 2 games in a new series that was based off of that. At least new to me. Again, Austerlitz had to have been around for a while by the time I got it, if I was getting, you know, one of the version 2 rule sets. But I was also so pleased with the gamers as a company. And I have to say, I'm somewhat saddened that they went under MMP eventually. They managed their company and their customer service to such a fine degree. I haven't noticed anything that's bad about that particularly, except maybe some of the printing choices in terms of like, hey, let's use paper that's, you know, less resistant to liquid for the maps. That was much later on, though. Anyway, because I'm doing Marengo, I had to do some of the work on here and translate things. And what I got was Watron's division is battered and essentially broken, because that translates over completely. I'm a little worried about that for the simple reason that the extra strength point, you know, the rect points for that, in 5 days, I feel like those values would move, and I'm thinking of shifting the check marks on them. I'm also doing something astounding for me. I'm using the, oh, here's Austerlitz in here. That's interesting. I'm using the actual loss charts that came with the game that are printed on really good stock, rather than making a photocopy. Part of that's because my photocopier has been being so iffy. Well, whatever. My printer has been being so iffy. And part of it's like, well, you know, if I'm only going to play these games like once more in my life, and maybe another time on top of that. Fuck it, man. Let's stop being such a hoarder and say, oh, I can't use something that is an expendable, So I cut those out and use them, and that's going to be nice because it's a thicker stock than I would possibly use. But it did mean in some cases, like the 96th line, some of the information that I had converted over to having to draw additional boxes in. So that's one of the issues, is that like some of the units have gotten a little bigger because I didn't take the expected losses. Mainly Victor's side of things is in good shape, but Watrin is just demolished, and I don't know how you'd avoid that in Montebello except by not attacking. Well, maybe the special events. On the Austrian side, the problem is sort of the opposite. The Austrians did take some significant losses, but I rolled a recovery. I juggled a couple of things where I would have to draw boxes in to cover up some of their losses, and maybe I should have done that on the other side. But it felt more natural here because the argument is that the Austrians were reorganized before Marengo, and so like the WK&O Grenzer and Ogulin Grenzers are combined together to be the infantry right command. And I think I was okay there. Those took damage. The 8th Hussars add 4 steps to become the Cav right. And stuff like that, where, and then there's weird stuff like add the steps remaining in the Jaegers and Light to a third of those in IR-28. This gives you the AGC and AGL. Divide them up as equally as possible, yeah. And then add the remaining steps of IR-28 to IR-40 to get Rets S, which ended up getting huge. But again, I had no losses to deploy. I'm not moving check marks of units that got bigger. Yeah, I may be giving them an unreasonable advantage with that, but I don't even want to think about that. But I am thinking that, Watrin should be in better shape after 5 days of rest. His units should not be suffering the way they were right after Montebello. I'm going to go to setup now and see how this one works using the version 3 rules. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of play. I did the detail of play in Montebello. Unfortunately, the counters in Montebello and the hex sheet were a smaller size, probably my own fault. I probably printed them down to scale so I could fit them better. That made them clumsy and obnoxious. Now we've got everything the way it should be with the company-produced ones, and that should be a lot more fun. I've started to set up the full scenario. It's a fairly long one, a full day in summer. The situation here, Napoleon's just crossed the Alps. He's coming down to relieve the army of Italy. Milas has been doing a good job. And this is a battle where it was highly in doubt to begin with. A couple of heroes of the battle, de Saxe, came to save the day. Lon did a great job, apparently. Kellerman, we'll see more about him in the rules. I have not fully set up the units yet. This is an Austrian force holding a fortified position that is the road, the bridgehead coming across the Bormida. Milas is going to be coming through there at 6 a.m. with whatever troops, all his troops are coming in through there at that point. Now, they're not going to all make it on the map in one turn. Who's this? This is the GV. Gardan under Victor. is going to be screening and have some defensive position against them more forward. Victor himself is back here, and he's got Kellerman's Cav and Chamberlain near Marengo to help defend that. Over here, Watrin, which is, I think, the extent of Lan's corps, and Murat has most of his cav there, everything except for Kellerman. I haven't written the orders down yet. I haven't placed the pieces, but I want to go through the special rules for the scenario and maybe take a look at the events that are special to it. Okay, the Tête de Pont. And already there's going to be problems. This is the Austrian fortified bridgehead. Its hex sides act as a trench. Okay, trench is not defined in here. It's also not defined on the version 2 rules. So I don't know what to do with that. Remember there being something about stating that the walled farms are not fortified in this. Well, there's nothing about fortified here either. So I'm going to have to look that up to see and maybe make some rules up after looking at the version 2 rules to see what the hell that is, because I don't remember entrenchments being a thing here in this series. Cavalry and artillery can only cross these hex sides while moving along the road. Infantry must expend all its movement allowance. Probably also will become at least disordered doing so. But I'm more worried about the fire capability of that. Now, let me see. Because maybe trenches exist in the combat. Sunken road or trench, yeah. So there's terrain rules for a trench there. I don't think there are here. I can't tell you for sure. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah. Defending in fortified terrain would be a +1 on the check to stand. And fortified terrain, I'll probably use fortified terrain. That probably comes the closest. Okay. Elevations, the game map has no elevation levels. Great, I like that. Casualty tracks, no casualties on map. You don't need it for victory determination. Great. No anti-initiatives. Hey, that reminds me of something. The old rules used to have something called anti-initiatives. Sometimes armies would have specific penalties to making initiative rolls. I don't remember that being addressed at all in Series 3. It probably would be added to scenarios as needed, and we're going to see those in Austerlitz. French rules. No unit assigned to a corps can be detached to another corps. Exception, MD can be assigned to any desired French corps. MD. Okay. The Cav Division, Consular Guard, and the optional artillery can be attached to a corps if desired. The Consular Guard. This is 1 infantry, 1 cavalry, and 1 beer, 1 artillery. These units never need to be within any particular command radius and are completely independent, both of themselves and any other unit or leader. They are, of course, elite units, and the full elite division effects come into play only when both the infantry and cav are wrecked. The artillery does not matter for this. The elite value of the Consular Guard is 1. Well, I don't have a good answer as to whether or not I want to use any kind of impact for elite units getting wrecked. Replace little guy with any corps commander. Regardless of other results, the French player loses the battle if Napoleon loses. If the commander loss random event comes up, that doesn't affect victory. French minor variants. Okay, so there are some optional pieces that could come in, and you're allowed to buy these. This is standard for the gamers. Earlier arrival of Desacs. I'm not going to play with either of them. There's also some additional optional artillery that can be added. Austrian special rules. No attachment or detachment except those enforced by scenario information, and those mandated ones cannot be changed later. That's kind of disturbing. That's kind of an indication that you're not allowed to do something, but it's expressed in some of the smaller scenarios. The Austrian command situation is murky enough, no sense in making it worse. See also the development of the left wing, 3.3. Okay. No corps structure and order of succession. The Austrian army is composed of divisions with no corps structure. Oh, this is going to be fun. This reminds me of those ACW ones that are that problematic here. Yep. Handle all orders as divisional goals. Remember, this means each divisional commander is bolted to the ground when he has no orders, or defensive in this case. To avoid having the divisional commander retain a full brigade as a bodyguard when he's so bolted, the regular stacking requirement to stack with one of their brigades is waived here for the Austrians. I've largely waived that anyway, and I think that may be gone in version 3. All Austrian leaders, well, I do for corps leaders, yeah, okay. All Austrian leaders can stack with and affect the morale of any friendly unit or none as the player chooses. I'll stack with and not affect. In an exception to the usual straggler recovery rules, these divisions can recover stragglers even when on divisional goals, yeah. The commander of the right wing, O'Reilly, is the functional commander of the right units, which act as a division. These units are the cavalry, right artillery, and infantry. That's his division, yeah. Zax, the commander of the center wing, only enters play if an option is used or if he's been appointed to army command. When he enters play, because Milos has become a casualty, place him instantly where Milos died and place him there after the Hex makes any morale checks. That doesn't really apply anymore, probably. Ott, the left wing, is a free leader. He can apply his morale modifiers to any stack in the scenario. He can set up with any troops. However, there's additional rules on this. Should Milos become a casualty, the following order of officers take command: Zelos, Ott, O'Reilly, Haddock, Schellenberg, and then Vogelsang. If you have to go behind him, give up and try a different game. The left wing. Your luck is just horrible at that point. In any order issued to Ott from the army commander, or when Ott gets initiative, he can grab up to 4 divisions in a nominal left wing. Once assigned, you put the left headquarters anywhere which allows these divisions to be in command, and they effectively form a corps. When this wing already exists, when play begins, set it up with the wing headquarters acting as a corps headquarters according to standard rules. So you got a semi-corps. Austrian minor variants, you can use the corps headquarters for the center, right, and left wing. These can be set up anywhere in the game. And all divisions have to be assigned to a wing. There's some restrictions to how that goes. How much does that cost? Because that is like, 3 victory points, yeah. So compare that to 3 victory points for Monse's additional corps. The Sax coming earlier is just worth 1. But the 2 together are worth 6, not 4. And more French artillery, it's just a couple points of artillery, but it's worth 2 victory points. And some additional cavalry, which is worth a victory point. But these things weren't present in the battle, so I don't want to put them in. If they show up in the special rules, like due to the game table for random events, that'd be cool. Okay, victory points. You get 1 point for each enemy division wrecked, counting both stragglers and casualties as they exist at the end of the play. The player who occupies at the end of player was last to move through a feature gets the victory points for it. And what we have is Tête à Pont is worth 5. Marengo is worth 3. These are all marked on the board, by the way. Castle Crioldo is worth 2. Spinetta is worth 1. That's in the 22s. Down here. Villanova is worth 1. That's Casino Grosso. Where's Villanova? Villanova's up here. Casino Grosso we got in St. G. Vecchio, which is way over here, is worth 5. You total the levels of victory, and it's basically a balanced, mostly balanced chart. And there are a number of scenarios here. But we're going to play the big battle of Marengo. There's nothing special there. I got to write my orders, and I'll talk about them after I do so. But it's time for a break. I've done enough. Back to the fantasy of the Napoleonic era. So I set up my pieces. Defense here at Petrobona, and surrounding that, the Austrians set up the Tete de Pont. I did find that is fortified terrain. That was specified over in the 3.0 rules. These, I think, are just villages, whatever they are. The thing that I thought I saw, I think, had to do with Aspirin Essling, not with this. And then Chambalac back here trying to control the two roads across here, this Fentonone River. It's not impassable. It's considered a tributary. I think the Bormida is a river, which means it is impassable. But a tributary causes everything to be disordered crossing it. Doesn't seem to have any cost, which I find disturbing. I find that very, very disturbing, because it shouldn't just cost you like the 1 movement point or 2 movement points to get into the hex. One thing that I struggled with Montebello, infantry in line pays 2 points per hex. That's new, I think. Yeah. And that's hard to remember for me. I don't think I actually ever faced it. I think what happened, though, was I was paying 2 points per hex for units in column at certain points in the game, because I saw that and just thought, well, infantry. Now, infantry in line is significantly disadvantaged here in a way that certainly would make sense for 50 years earlier. I'm not so sure in this era, and I understand the reasons for it. It does make it more sensible to see, especially with the French with the march column that has actual advantages in terms of the close combat. It does make, I can see marching forward in that. This encourages more historical behavior for both forces, really. 2, you can quibble there. I got more of the feeling of 1.5 would be more appropriate, but then that becomes kind of a pain in the ass, and honestly, you would move in column as far as you can and then deploy to line, which is what you want to see, right? You don't want to see big lines marching across the map. That just does not make a lot of sense. But on the other hand, this is going to cause, a formation change to column, moving forward several hexes, because the movement allowances are quite high in this game as compared to in Viva l'Empereur, where, I want to see, geez, I looked up and I talked about what the scale differences were. And then it passes through my mind immediately. It's very hard for me to keep those elements in mind. Anyway, I'm just doing delay of game here because it's a Friday. And I know I'm not going to get into any kind of engagement using these rules today. But I might bring a few units on. I might bring the Austrian army on, and then deal with how the French are going to react. Now, the French have no overall commander on the board at the beginning of the game, which is somewhat problematic. I haven't written the rules of the orders yet. I better write those. Words as I continue with this. So, first of all, the terrain effects of the tributary in the version 2, which, you know, this was designed for, so I figure I'll look at it to see. Okay, artillery can't cross it. Did I have that at least? Yeah, artillery is prohibited. But everything else here is just marked as all, as in they spend all their movement points. It's their 1 hex movement, which I'm going to apply here. Oh no, it says all DG. Okay. No, it expressly expresses it. But what it does not express in the old rules was this disorder for crossing the river. And that is important, because that makes it valuable to just say, let's defend the river crossings and keep units in reserve. If anything crosses the river, it'll be disordered. I can march up and push it back, and it will go badly for them, trust me. So for the orders, I haven't written the Austrian ones yet, but I have written, and I thought they were just empty. They're not. They're actually real, so I'm good. Here it's defend area near Marengo and river crossings for the not the 5th Corps, the V Corps, because it's Victor. Oh shit. I don't know what I had. Probably works. It's close enough. Good enough for government work. Hey, gotta consider that, right? I mean, it'll last a few years at least, right? But what it doesn't, what these orders don't concern themselves is with the GV division, which looks like it's not following the orders, right? I mean, yeah, this is the area near Marengo, and I guess that's sort of these crossings, but I'm way out in front. I would say they have the defend orders. They're deployed as though they do. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But this is the kind of, when I read orders in the initial setup, and this isn't a bad instance of it, but it is an instance, they often feel like I'm expected to do things that if I had written the orders myself, I would be like, yeah, I couldn't do that. All right, let me get the Austrian ones. There's a whole bunch for them as well. I have the 2 things on the stack and lost one of them. Usually I can hold 2 things on the stack of my brain. Well, the one that displaced the other one was starting to write the Austrian orders. This is for the right wing. It's to advance to La Stortiglione. I got it. I had it in my head there. Capture the bridge, pivot, and support an attack on Marengo. So the issue with this is support the attack on Marengo. That means somebody had better be making the attack. That's these 3 commands are each going to have that order, and they're not grouped together as anything. Okay. Now, what that means is if those 3 stop, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to be able to attack Marengo on my own. That's fair. I don't mind that. It's just the understanding that a support order, at least the way I read it, means there has to be an attack going on for me to continue with it. Okay, so here was the other thing. This is an engage order. Under the old rules, you don't have to roll for corps attack stoppage until you start engaging, until you take fire from the enemy was the basic factor in it. There is no fire from the enemy except for if there's artillery deployed. So that means under those old rules, you wouldn't have to roll until you close combat, perhaps, So that's a little iffier. Now these skirmishers are going to change that, and there's artillery, so whatever. Space up. Let the artillery have a little bit of a firing line through the skirmishers. You may have to pull them back. But anyhow, under the version 3 rules, you start rolling for engage orders right away. And what does that mean? Well, that means I should be writing complex orders, which are equally hard to achieve. Oh, I know the other thing that I had. Okay. I should be writing complex orders. I guess I had 3 on the stack. Complex orders for this that are like advance until you see forces and then engage to try to get the results that I used to have, or advance until you get within, 3 hexes of them or something. Whatever that means. And I don't like this. So if you're taking a risk that you're going to not engage, that you're going to lose your orders because you chose engage orders, you could write slightly more complicated orders that fit the old rules. And I'm just going to say I assume that, because I don't think I should have to be rolling for attack stoppage here just because I didn't simplify, just because I didn't add some dressing around the orders, some window dressing to make them, general orders until X. Now here's the thing with engage orders, and these complex orders could get much, much worse than them. And I really prefer the way the orders worked before for this. I could write complex orders that say, I move there, I engage once I'm within a certain range. Once I clear Marengo, then I slip back into a march order to go somewhere else, and then I'm on general orders, and I wouldn't be still rolling core attack stoppage the way I read these rules after I do that switch. And again, I don't think that's right. After you've engaged in a fight, from then on, there's sort of the, okay, yes, we're not facing anything, but maybe these orders, maybe the beating we took, whatever, requires that we stop, rest, and reassess the position, and need more orders to push us on forward. And I don't mind that at all. The question here is once you get a force moving on what's really movement that's unopposed, it's probably hard to stop. It's not hard to keep it moving, as long as the fatigue levels don't go up, and that's not covered in this game. You can fight all fucking day without a problem, and I have an issue with that. That's something that's always existed in the NBS rules. There's no fatigue. Maybe in an early version, there was an optional fatigue rule. So, because I do vaguely remember something like that in CWB being an optional and then disappearing. Like it was an unworkable rule, which may be why Viva la Emperor has it as these are highly untested rules. Okay. Shit, now I lost the other thing. God damn me. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing that's gone, and this is really, really minor. So in the command points, you worry about the values of the 2 commanders. You worry about the method that the orders are given. Is it oral or written? And the type. You used to worry about, and maybe it's not in here. Yeah, here it's method and type. Back in version 1 and in CWB, you worried about type, method, force. Now, I would almost always give maximum force orders. Force meant how much effort is the commander putting to getting the orders across clearly. If you wrote a low force value on your orders, what it meant was, I'm scribbling this out quickly or telling you quickly, go attack. Go get Castel Cirillo, and you wouldn't necessarily take the time and the effort to spell things out enough that they operate more quickly. I don't know how I feel about the dropping of it. Clearly, even Dean was dropping it when he got to the version 2. Probably people were looking and saying, that doesn't really add anything. People always do maximum force. But that's not the case. Every now and then you have to issue a bunch of orders to a bunch of people at once. It's really, really rare. And one way to get around that was to lower the force on them and to say, you know what? I'm good enough and you're good enough, you'll understand it. There's a good chance that you'll follow these orders. And it's more important that people get the orders quickly than that they follow them accurately. There's some iffiness to it though. It's like, it's not really how forcefully you declare the orders. Like the force isn't really something that you're expending yourself on. It's more the detail, and it should be like the more detailed the order, and that's kind of handled in the engage and complexity and whatever, the more difficult it is to undertake. The more little complex pieces there are to it if you're dividing up, if you're detaching units and everything, and those become separate orders instead. I hope. I've seen and maybe been inclined to write orders along the lines of detach this to defend there as you march through here and stuff like that, where it's like, I mean, you're definitely getting a complex order there, but if you're already paying for complex or engage orders, fucking hell, might as well throw some stuff in that really isn't that tough. And that really is part of an individual order. Like, you can totally see Napoleon saying, look, I want you to march to Castle Siriolo and leave the 3rd Division there, but continue on and then support, Victor when he makes his attack, and just be like, whoa, what? All right. Looking at the battlefield the way it is, somebody had better be going this way. I haven't written those. I haven't looked at the orders yet. Like, I would not be writing my orders to go engage this, just looking at what I know about the battlefield. This is part of the reason why I like using the pre-written orders, because, you know what? Melas may not know what the situation is very well, and he does want to engage. The victory conditions to the game are, to a large part, to grab these point areas. I mean, if you grab some point areas, but also, there's no reason for me to cross this river and engage. I can cross it here and come around. What the hell am I doing? Well, maybe there's a hurry. There's certainly more French troops coming on that aren't on the board yet, but not a whole hell of a lot. Yeah. All right. Let's look at the orders for the remaining units, which are in blocks. So 3 divisions are basically sent to deploy in front of Pedro Bona and attack to capture Marengo. Well, those are engage orders. They all have the same orders, but they're all tracked separately. So I wrote them all as, I gave them one order set, but I am doing all the tracking separately. Similarly, advance to vicinity of Pedro Bono and await orders. This is a reserve, knowing what's here. And then the ones who are going in the right direction here, capture this Castel Cirillo and await orders. But what's weird on this one, so there's orders that say, hey, the left wing may be established in some scenarios. This is the main scenario. What they say here is, these units comprise the left wing as per Rule 3.3. Well, I don't know. Does that mean that I've formed the left wing already, which seems like a one-time situation? Here we've got the left corps, but that's French. Here we've got the left wing again, worded the same way. Each has a separate divisional goal. Well, that's not really a corps. That's not really the left wing anymore. And the way this is done is up to 4 divisions can be assigned to a nominal left wing. Once assigned, place the left headquarters anywhere which allows these divisions to be in command, and they effectively form a corps. Okay. Now this is de Sax's attack, which is as evening approaches, late in the game, and it sounds like they're not really established yet, but they are. And then here we've got these comprise the left wing for purposes of Rule 3.3. And then here we're at early afternoon. Is that this one? Yeah, that's this one. Right? No. No, here they're not being stated that way. But here on the 1 p.m. one, see, I'm having trouble because there's like El Cor. That's French. Okay, that was the end of this one. Frontal assault, let's see. This is the 9 a.m. scenario, which is once the attack's set up. I think that's missing that left wing. I think it's just not included in it. That's sort of a preliminary, let's handle the early attack on Marengo. I don't know what to do. I think right now I'm under divisional goals, but I will form that left wing as soon as I send new orders, basically, or get an initiative for Ott, because I don't want to be without it. And this is problematic because the late game de Sax scenario seems to indicate that that left wing is kind of not in existence. So, I mean, either that or it's in existence already and I'm operating under it. But there's this, what's up with those divisional goals? That's not covered in here. It seems like the left wing is creating a real core, something that doesn't exist otherwise in this scenario for the Austrian army that can operate together. And I don't see how it operates together unless what they're trying to say in the de Sax thing is the left wing is an operable functional unit for orders, but then each division can fail those orders individually, like that. It's just not well written. Anyway, that's enough for me to take a break. By far, by far. Played out the first entire turn actually, pretty quickly. Though a little bit more engagement than usual in games where troops are coming on the board, just because this stuff is so close to the entry point, that the artillery got to blink at it. Now, what's weird in this, first of all, there's the, hey, no room to maneuver or whatever, but also, I wanted to bring the left in first and drive it up there, but I'm like, I don't know if I can trust that, because this force could position itself to start interfering with that, presumably. The way the orders are and whatnot, probably can't. I'm stretched out far from Victor, and maybe too far. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This would be, I think, the limit of normal command ranges in this version 3. In version 2, you could use the road to extend your command range, and I don't know if that's still the case. I guess I could look it up. Might as well, right? Command hierarchy is over here, and this gives the distances. Looking to see, because there's it's got to be in here, and I'm kind of not seeing it really quickly. Somewhere or another, they've got to tell you. Subunit command and control, all the way down back here. So command ranges. So here it is. If you find this easier, trace the range and commander movement points counting roads as 1 instead of 1/2. I think before you used to be able to count the roads as 1/2. And maybe you kind of need it here. I'm not going to penalize this situation. This is what the scenario was written as, and I kind of think the roads should probably be 1/2. Maybe they didn't fully consider what these rules would impact on earlier games where the command ranges were different. But yeah, I'm moving the forces of the AG center up into place. That got me into range here. I couldn't charge these skirmishers because I would be open to opportunity fire by doing so. This is one of the real dangers here, right? Is whatever I do, because the artillery is placed there, is kind of painful. And for the French side, there's nothing I could do except maybe roll for initiative. Now, because these guys took fire, they'll be checking for attack stoppage, which would be painful as well. The right has orders, I guess, and it's tiny, to cut through here. The left has orders basically to just pound through with no real consideration of which bridge I take. I'm sorry, the center. And the left has its orders to shift up here. And then I have a couple of units that I guess are right center reservists that are going to park somewhere, and they'll be the last things I bring on. I didn't have to bring on the full force of the center to begin with, but I feel like I have to deploy that and start fighting this. And if I'm going to do any of that, I want the full strength, and that's big enough that it took up most of the board. And I am chattering way too much, but that's about all I'm doing today. Now I go out dancing in about an hour, and yeah, it's light out. I leave my house around 6:30. Takes an hour and a half to get down there. Ooh, a little less than that. And that gives me time to chill out, stretch, and drink a beer or so, and read a newspaper before I actually have to start. So the Austrians, another hour goes by. The Austrians start deploying their forces and unlimbered a couple of guns. Now, I don't have grand batteries this early for the Austrians, so I plinked at a couple of units. But I've got more guns, so I figure I've got an advantage. So far, nobody's done anything to anybody else with those. I sent in the left wing next, starting to make its move towards Castel Soriolo. Nothing really for the French to do. Some cav charges. Actually, these are safe because I can declare the cav charge, and the skirmisher has to decide, are they going to fall back or not? Well, they have to fall back. And that means I don't actually make the movement. So the skirmishers fall back from that. Now, one of the questions in this system, unless you're going to write your orders in really a lot of detail, more than I want to do, and there have been some order writing suggestions that say, you should be writing it in that kind of determination. You should also be writing the amount of force you're applying. There's nothing that really prevents me from standing off like this and just bombarding the French position, softening it up. To do so, I either would have to write out, soften it up until something, making it a complex order instead for, whatever difference that makes. Or for X amount of time or whatever. Or I take the approach that I'm taking, which is, I'm free to pursue this attack, under the local commander's decisions. And you know what? I completely forgot to roll for both players whether an event happened. Probably forgot on the first turn too, but that's okay. First turn is special. All right. I don't know. That may be all I do tonight. It was tiny, but Saturdays are just rough on me. I'm probably not going shopping tomorrow. It's supposed to be rainy and I'm badly chafed. Failed to note in the rules comparisons. The opportunity fire in version 3 is significantly different than it was in version 2. It looks like it's about the same when you just peek at the rules, but here's the big difference. You get opportunity fire once on any unit that's entering or stopping in your opportunity fire zone. In version 2, like in CWB, as long as you don't change formation or leave an opportunity fire zone, the artillery doesn't get opportunity fire on you. What that means is that there's a higher rate of fire for units as they approach than there are in previous versions. That strengthens artillery significantly. Anyhow, here I'm just showing you that the Austrians are launching their attack. The right wing coming up to take its position, O'Reilly here, and then the final sort of reserve forces for this attack on Marengo. Still trying to prioritize these guys, pushing stuff across the stream here, shakes it. Opportunity fire was effective against that unit, not against another. It's not clear to me. I'm firing on the 3 table. There's basically a 50-50 chance of getting hit on the 3 table, but there's going to be 2 shots, right? But this is the weird thing. Because of the sequence of play that's present in the version 3, units that are approaching get the shit shot out of them, right? But once units are standing there trading fire with you, the artillery doesn't get as many free shots. It just gets 1 shot per turn, per player turn. And if we look at the actual combat chart, see, this is kind of complicated because but we have to look at the fire points. So if I was looking at 3 fire points at range 1, that would be a 3. That would get me here, which is about that 50-50 hit that I'm getting here. This is a little better than 50-50, but one of these is just a morale check, that kind of stuff. So I think the artillery has been upped in value a little bit, which kind of makes sense because artillery is more important in the Napoleonic era, but there's no real improvement in the artillery. There's no real reason why artillery in that old CWB model wouldn't be just as good. I mean, men are still marching with their muskets. The ranges are the same. The technology of the artillery is essentially the same. Mass batteries mean that you can... It's easier to coordinate the artillery in CWB than it is here for the non-French. But other than that, the artillery is approximately the same stuff, right? Now, if you go to what else has changed, well, the musket range is one big thing. There's a lot more rifles in the Civil War period. So you could say some of that fire is maybe being suppressed by skirmishers who aren't even on the board. Instead of clouds of skirmishers, you have like sharpshooters scattered about, picking off the artillery gunners or something. And you can probably make some kind of hand-wavy argument about that. Anyhow, we're not seeing any close combat here. So the French are just going to get their fire coming back, their next round of fire. And luckily for them, they have skirmishers. Both sides do. The Austrians have deployed theirs, and they actually have more. But the French ones are 2-pointers. The Austrians are 1 point. I guess. Maybe I should look that up. And nearly all that fire, well, the artillery concentrates on the already shaken unit. Now it's disordered. Debris, who is under there, has taken significant hits. It's not looking terribly pleasant, but at least we get to recover our cav. I don't know how much that does me with this vineyard here. That's not nice stuff to go through. Yeah, cav does not like that. But if I can get around with a flanking position, it might even be worth charging shaken. Probably is. These guns only reach to here, which means I have a channel back there. So this position may be essentially undermined. I'm going to think about what the French reaction to that is, because I got to tell you, with that opportunity fire, all the chances for it, and the maneuvering and the care that you have to place to get your units up there receiving the least fire, with the possibility of the cav charges, with all the crap that Napoleonic, simulation kind of requires. Each turn is just such a burden, And this is, I think, one of the reasons the NBS didn't take off. Labatt's already out there for people who want all that tedium. And it just doesn't play the way, CWB, you felt like you could just kind of sit back and roll those units towards each other and take some shots at each other and watch what happens. And it's all real simple. And honestly, Vive l'Empereur feels closer to that in spirit, in terms of like the level of detail and effort you have to put into the play of the game. This is closer to the Labatt level of effort and detail, just because of what you have to do to try to screen your units as you move forward and all that crap. And I'm not sure that I still have the tolerance. So far I've been drawing some big negatives every time, internally. Every time that I play something like Labatt or Battles of the Age of Reason, where I'm just having to manipulate the minutia of the maneuvers in order to get my pieces to do what I more or less want to do. On the other hand, there's so much hand-waving going on in Vive l'Empereur that I at least gripe about it, even if I have a good time playing it, I guess. Better firepower, I decided to hold my position here and just shoot. I was considering attacking the disordered unit. Taking things really slowly, it's not just the game as ever. I'm feeling sort of that total collapse coming on again, where, I would either be playing video games or crap like that, or in this case, I've been cracking open books and reading them. Way up, I noticed somebody nibbling on my yard, right in the front on the hill. Anyway, I'm gonna try to get a little bit played. There's something, Montebello did this, and it was very, very helpful. On the loss sheets, they had the parenthesized command ratings of all the leaders. I have to make attack stoppage checks, and I have to dig through and find those. I'll write them down, but yeah, that was definitely an upgrade in the set for Talavera. If you see the number of changes that CWB went through, little improvements to the design of stuff and everything, especially in terms of player aids. Yeah, it makes sense. NBS just never got the kind of attention, and I feel like the Talavera group did that. they provided that attention. It's a little easier on myself. I wrote the sequence of play out here. Been relying on it in the rules. I thought I found it in here. I didn't see it, but honestly, the less I have to flip through those, the better. If I'm looking, you know, hey, what am I doing right now? So having a separate copy of it seems wise. Attack stoppage checks passed, no random event. Started moving this cav around here, and I realized I had forgotten to bring Milos in. Now, again, Marengo is written, the rules for Marengo were written for the second edition. So there's things like, there are no orders. There's no specification of what the orders are here. That's fine. It's in a no order status. It doesn't matter. But, and I'm in a discussion with somebody about Montebello where he seems to be thinking I'm violating rules, and I don't think I was. I think he's just missing something, but maybe I'm not understanding what he's saying. Like, I don't show every little instance. So like, if you don't see that I have, you know, I don't know. But the army doesn't have any orders, and it has to in version 3. I am going to make some up and not write them. But anyway, I forgot to bring the army and Melas in, which is fine, or Milas. I'm going to throw his army command somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but probably behind the lines here. And try to get orders to Ott to form that left division officially. I have the left corps there, but again, the way that the scenario is written, it's not really clear that it exists yet. It may or may not. But situationally, the French did a pretty good job by disorganizing a couple of these units, and that basically means that they have to fall back and maybe get replaced by you know, reserves or whatever, so that they can recover. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a cav charge from behind here, and because the opportunity fire range is decent, they don't even get a plink at me, or is I'm outside that opportunity fire, just outside. Issues in play here is that there's so many optional units. Oh, these haven't come on yet either. That's what's going on. All right, yeah, this is the reserve forces, I guess, of the center. I don't know. And there's no core definitions anywhere. This right wing is optional. Somewhere I have a center wing that's probably on the board and shouldn't be as well. They just give you so many optional rules, so many different optional counters in this scenario. I'm not sure why. Gamers tended to give you a decent little optional. The thing is, it's a fair proportion. Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't seem like that much. This does. You could give the French a whole lot more. I planned that charge. I realized things aren't working. There's a fucking village hiding under there. And I think I have enough movement points to try to charge behind these guys, but now I have to rethink everything. Yeah. Hexes are a little tight for the size of the counters. And that's usually not a big deal, but on this map with these little tiny single hex terrain features, they can get hidden easily. I guess the charge did what it was supposed to. It turned a unit into square. There really isn't a lot more effect to them. You see this in the Viva Lamper too, where here the cav actually got the artillery could fire canister as opportunity fire. It's firing, well, it's in a square, but This would allow it to fire in the same hex, the opportunity fire shot. And that's a pretty big deal. But the negative to that is I was facing entirely the wrong way, so I can't fire. You can fire from the flanks, not that way. Still trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with the Austrians, but you know, it takes me 5-10 minutes to figure out a cav charge. You know, largely because it's this procedural heavy operation, and then I start finding things I screw up, like the village, or have to go look up the artillery rules and stuff like that. And it's a high expense, and one that I don't think is going to get that much easier with experience. I'm not sure, you know, but it just feels like this fucking hurdle that I am going to have to face every time I'm playing it. And I don't know. Once upon a time, maybe I was more into dealing with a lot of the minutia. But when you get to the Napoleonics, it just starts building up so much for me. I don't know. You know, when I played NBS originally and liked it, I thought, hey, maybe I'll be able to deal with Wellington's victory and Ney versus Wellington again. I tried playing Ney versus Wellington again, still hated it. I don't know why. Some of it's the scenario situation. But anyway, I feel like I don't want to even finish the turn, you know, because of the energy I expended to get one piece resolved. So far, I've launched a number of melee attacks here. Now, I held off to move my left corps, and until kind of last, although I'll move Melas up to talk to Odd, give him orders. And this stupid fucking divisional command structure. I understand why it's here. I understand entirely, but it's fucking me up. The V division ended up marching down to go take Pedro Bona or whatever down here because it looked like it was part of the right wing or something, I don't know. The right wing, is there anything in the right wing? Is it just a cav unit? No, there's an infantry somewhere. I don't know where the fuck that is. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many different structures. They're all coming in through one spigot. And shit is just getting confused in the wrong places. With the CWB games, when they did the... trying to remember what the fuck it was called. The Bull Run, the 3 battles of Bull Run, maybe what it's called. 2 of which are real, 1 of which didn't happen, but could have. Both of those had messed up command structures too. It just, you know, part of the beauty and the simplicity of the Brigade series is this core command concept. And that, like, unless you're doing something really weird with a unit here, a unit there, in general, everything's moving together in these nice formations. They come in generally on a road as a corps at once, not as a whole fucking army down the road at once in any jumbled order you want. But yeah, I'm having similar problems to what I had in Viva la Emperor, which was I lost track of units. Here, at least, it's visible when you've got units going in the wrong place. But yeah, I gotta swap my battery. The reality may just be I'm maybe just too old and cranky to play the games that I used to love, you know? Because I remember 15 years ago or whatever, when I picked up the version 3, being really impressed by it. And of course, I loved the Napoleonics. I don't remember Marengo being all that painful. Although, you know, maybe this shit happened. It wasn't on video. I said, screw it, or I fixed it and didn't worry about it, and the later battle worked out nicely. Anyway, these kind of things happen. One of the things is, when I do it on video, you get a higher level of agitation and, you know, irritation. And you also, there's a record of it. it doesn't just fade from my memory, it's imprinted here, which is why I feel like I have to explain it to some extent. Anyway, I'll try to dig up those V units and I'll try to find that fucking infantry. The V units should have been heading down this road. I don't know where they were when they started their move. I'm gonna pretend that this is right. It's not, but V is up here instead of wherever they were, and it's probably fine. That I think they got slowed down by all this, but who knows. I found the right. It's sitting over here. I don't know if that's where it could have gotten to. During the move forward for those assaults, opportunity fire ended up killing one of my good commanders, Keim, who was going in for an assault, and he's out of play for this scenario and counts as an additional brigade wrecked on that division. Now, we get non-phasing fire. There basically isn't any. I could fire into that village if there wasn't a melee going on in there. Line of sight is blocked everywhere else. So I forgot the melee phase. I forgot to write it in there. Fuck. That's got to be, I believe, I don't know. Let me look it up. Trying to make something nice that I could see things easily. Now I've got close combat jammed in between non-phasing and rally. One thing I got to keep in mind is the village. That has some special effects on the melee, and I don't think I charged a village before. On the bright side, it's only a 1 hex village, so we're not going to see me storming through the streets and doing multiple attacks at the same time. Chances are the Austrians are going to get flung back some more. One thing to note, I unlimbered all my guns right behind where the charges were made. That could be advantageous. That could give me a significant amount of firepower there. Let's make sure H right and K, those are all the guys who are supposed to be there, so I didn't cheat with that. I tried to slip V in there, but yeah. I tried to do the village one because I don't think I had a village one in the Montebello game first. So first thing we do is we check to stand. Do I have a sequence here? Unfortunately, I don't, and I fucking don't want to write out another mess. So we have it here. We did this. Defending artillery got to perform opportunity fire. Did they? Yes, they killed that guy going in. I think I forgot to fire grape shot. Oh well. Let me roll another shot for him. That would have been a 3-gun. That would not do anything. Okay. Where are we? During combat. Check to stand. Okay, so the defender is the only one who checks to stand. And now, here's the problem. You have to unpack this entire hex and see what you got there. And the defender has an A morale unit there as its lead. So check to stand will be a 1. We look through here. I have a good leader. That probably gives me an advantage. I probably have skirmisher advantage. I automatically stand. The defender doesn't have to check. The attacker checks. Let's check the attacker. The attacker is a C morale unit with a good leader with no edges. Okay, so C morale is a 3. Good leader gives me a +1. The skirmisher disadvantage gives me a -1, so I'm looking at a 3 for standing. I believe I succeed. I have to check. Yeah, you want to roll higher. Again, the game does not consistently go, you want to go high, you want to go low on things. Check to stand is probably always that way, but some of the morale checks you want to roll under. Where does that put me next? That's cav charges. Check the outcome. Okay, I don't know what the outcome is in a village. I have to look this up. There might be something in here that tells me, but I don't know. This is the, which is the Keim hex.
Okay, Kime was withdrawing when he got killed, I guess.
All right. I'm looking to see because that unit should have gotten a morale -1 for that. And yeah, it was debris. So he has a route. Guess he's back here somewhere. I got no idea. And now I'm back at, hey, what's up with the village? I know that I'm an attack column, so I didn't get the penalty for that. But I'm attacking line. I think that's attacking a line in town or village. Is this a line? It is. That would have been another -1. I think I succeeded in my check, though. I think I rolled a 6. I don't fucking know. So many modifiers. Hunting them down and or remembering them is much, much harder than what the old version 2 used to deal with in my memory. Again, maybe I'm old and crotchety now. But yeah, the burden of the mechanical mental stuff in this version, it just feels higher. And you know, maybe my feeling, I kind of remember that from before. This feeling of, there's things I like about it, but is it worth the extra effort? And I had come to the decision of yes, but yeah, I don't know if I don't think I played Marengo on it. And I certainly didn't play things like Austerlitz, right? But yeah, I'm finding when I actually launch into an attack, it is just feeling so painful. Why? Maybe because I could just stand at range and trade shots for a long time in the old 2.0 rules, which the designers of this version say is completely ahistorical. I have heard arguments the other way as well, that Napoleonic units would just stand there and trade shots back and forth. So I don't know. Not pointed out on the chart that I saw is the attacker checks to stand using usual modifiers. If he fails, it's a defender 1. If he succeeds, it's an attacker 1. The defender never checks to stand. I knew that. There are no firefights. If the attacker 1 is in column, we can continue. So now I guess we just go to the casualty results. We use the attacker 1 side of things. We hunt down these things. And I don't know what we got here, but we got to spread it all out. Which, of course, you know, if things were a little denser, this would be really a fucking pain. Everything would get pulled off the map. I wouldn't be doing it on video. All right, so what do we have? We use the white die for casualties that the Austrians are giving, and they're giving to an A morale unit. And we've got a C morale Austrian unit. Okay, so let's look at the Austrian first. We rolled a 4. It's in column versus a defending line. That's +1. Its size, this is St. Julian. He may have taken losses. I don't believe he has. Okay, St. Julian is part of H division. We have to find that. He's still an AB. Okay. So, what's his morale? His morale is C. He was at 4. Oh, this doesn't matter. Size AA Knight. Yeah. He takes 1, 4 stragglers, and a morale hit. I'm going to record that and then come back and resolve what the defender's losses were. Well, I can record both, I hope. All right, the defender is the 44th line of GV.
He's still an AB. He's an A morale. He's going to take a route from this. The attacker was not in line. It's not knight. He'll be taking 2 hits and 5 stragglers. Tributary is not prohibited. I swam across it or whatever with the routed units. There were no leader losses. Let's check to see if there's anything special, additional in the village town rules. So if the attacker 1 is in column, he may continue his mad rush. French column can change formation, but I cannot. Okay. Works for me. Oh, older rules. This is where the thing I'm looking for is. Marengo, treat all the walled farm village hexes as town village, yeah. None of them should be considered fortified terrain, which, whatever that is, it's not on my charts. So it may be on modifiers of charts, but there's no movement point cost. So this is like clear terrain, I guess, to walk through. Breastworks or something. I'll continue with the other 2 attacks. The Austrians got kind of lucky there, but you know, it was 50-50 or whatever. I put a good unit in the village. That's a bad idea. If you're defending a village, put shitty units, because now I've got a wrecked A. The 44th line is wrecked. It was an A morale unit. Now, it'll get, you know, the stragglers back, but man, you know, I would have much rather had that happen to a piece of shit that I would rather not need. Be careful on this next battle. First of all, I'm in square, which probably is not good. But I'm an extended line off of the 101st line. Now, the 101st line is healthy. It's an AB. For that, I'm going to put a B here and try to remember that that's an A. Used to be the game had, well, the oldest version of the game in Austerlitz, and in the old CWB games, up until some point, they used to give you A counters. They used to give you counters for A and AA, I think, as the 2 sides, but they may have been something else. They were useful for this kind of situation, and in this particular version 3, I'm finding that with the extended lines, I do have to remember. In the old version, all melees were handled during movement. So you would swing in, hit this, and you might decrease the parent unit at the same time. And then you could hit that. Here, they are being hit at the same time, so you have to keep track of what the strength is at that at the moment that the combats all start. I made an error, not a rules error, in attacking in this hex and this hex. This one, oh no. Okay, this one came in column. That's kind of problematic. The French stood, but the Austrians may not have. Now, I'm a C morale unit here. Isn't there like a size difference? Yeah, there is. So, I think the French stood. You know, lots and lots of modifiers, gonna lose some, not gonna remember them all. The old system didn't have this shit. These things were built in to the effects they had, to the die rolls that took them, instead of trying to consolidate all the die rolls into a chart of modifiers. I'm not good at reading down a list of shit and doing everything on the list. I'm not good at procedural rules. There's heavy procedural aspects to these rules comparatively. And they get long enough that I can no longer keep them all in mind. And same thing with the, you know, with the modifiers. The new rules are designed to foil me, to make my life more miserable. But again, I think they're also better. They're more correct. I may well go back to the other rules at some point. Just to see if, am I as fucking disturbed? Is it only the version 3 that's throwing me for the loop? Okay, what am I checking? I'm checking these poor suckers. They're a C. C morale gives me this. I don't seem to have a morale state there. I have a skirmisher disadvantage. That's -1. I'm attacking a fucking square, which you would think would be bad for the square, but I don't see anything. But I'm attacking in march column, which is another -2. So I need like a 5 to make it. I do not, and I'm defeated, and that's going to be bad. I'll come back with what the results are because you know how the charts run. If you can pay any attention to how I manage to work with these charts. Again, unlike the I fire, you fire, the system feels much more like I have to balance 2 attacks at the same time and stuff like that. Which again, it's more of that mental mechanical shit that gets in my way. Got a good result here from the French. A 1 on the table with a bullet. So I get a bloodlust? Nah, that's a C morale unit. Oh well. But yeah, we can see the Austrians probably managed to do some decent damage to the French. Who knows? I don't know the morale of this unit or anything. I gotta look every fucking thing up every time, again and again. That's not right. Yeah, we didn't do much, but attackers on the C. Yeah, the attacker's going to take some straggles. Okay. My battery's almost run down. I'm not through the turn. I've burned through 2 batteries trying to deal with this. Modifiers are listed here, but loss adjustments are up here. So size B and C units, which this little square is, are actually going to be halved. Rounded down. That won't have much effect. I'm a 3. Looks like I'm just going to take 1 straggler on whoever that is. The Austrians have been pushed back at fairly heavy loss. There was 1 shift down, column versus defending line. So I took a 1 hit and 3 stragglers. Result. Here I attacked with a fairly small unit. I was half size, but because this was extended line, it worked out okay. I'm never going to be able to tell the size of my units. This is something where minis are more helpful, where you see a mass of pieces coming towards you. You can kind of see how big they are. It's much harder in a board game. And my usual reaction to that has been, well, okay, like I did in Viva l'Empereur, I don't even consider melee. If there's any reason not to. I don't consider going into the close combat situation. Which you could say, well, that's not very Napoleonic. And I agree, it's not. Viva l'Empereur is the worst game of this because the close combat rolls for that basically disincentivize any reason for it. The best thing you can do is almost always line up and trade shots at each other, which is definitely unreasonable. But again, the game has a lot of abstractions. I'm willing to say, hey, what you're seeing here is an abstraction that includes close combat. Okay, fine, whatever. But then why have the rules for close combat? It starts to feel more like a Napoleonic library from Zucker type game, except one that is trying to give you too much detail that doesn't really succeed. But it gives you a pretty picture that comes out of the that you extrapolate from the smaller pieces, and that it did a really great job of that on Leipzig. It doesn't work so well on the smaller ones. The bigger battles, it is appropriate. But here, I don't even know what the fuck I was going to say. Yeah, I can't, I don't know how big a unit I'm hitting. I'm so much on the, I want to smash in so I can get my guns up front. Well, that is the thing I did. I got my guns up front. Now I can start trading shots with those units. I have a superiority in artillery. I may break this position without having to resort back to close combat. In the old NBS series, I would look at the specific instance and say, do I want to charge? You know? Because I'm trying to create these breakthroughs and whatnot, as opposed, and this definitely feels more accurate. This feels more accurate than what I saw out of Labatt either, as well, in addition to having the nice command and control rules. All I have to do left is to recover, and that's pretty easy. And I make a roll for that and see if it does. These guys on the line can't. And then we're going to be going to the French turn, and I may load this up like on an Austrian turn, just because this is kind of a big stopping point, or a big pause. Yeah, and I've done a hell of a lot on this turn.